Hello, I'm Andrea, an official SAT tutor at MMT Prep, and in this video I will be reviewing the answers for the second reading passage of the College Board's first official practice test. As you can see, this is science, social science type of passage, so it's very, very skimmable. So I'm going to be looking at the passage first, and I'll go over skimming, and then together we will go through the answers for this passage. So, in reading the passage, the first thing I want to look at is the blurb. This passage is adapted from Francis J. Flynn and Gabrielle S. Adams' Money Can't Buy Love, Asymmetric Beliefs About Gift Price and Feelings of Appreciation, 2008. So, I get authors, all that stuff. Less important. A helpful thing is that this title, Money Can't Buy Love, Asymmetric Beliefs About Gift Price and Feelings of Appreciation, kind of hints what the article will be about and a possible thesis. So with that in mind, I'm now going to look for the actual thesis. That's the first thing I'm going to try and find. In an essay, the first place to look is the last sentence of the first paragraph. So I will read that first from line 13. At the same time, many dread the thought of buying gifts. Instantly, I can see that's not actually a thesis. So now I'm going to be looking elsewhere. I have options. Often the best place to look is in the conclusion at the very beginning. So I'm going to jump there. 66. Again, I'm just looking for the thesis at this point. The notion of gift givers and gift recipients being unable to account for the other party's perspective seems puzzling because people slip in and out of these roles every day and, in some places, multiple times in the course of the same day. Okay, so it's not exactly a thesis, but I can see what their argument is in the way that every body paragraph's topic sentence, if very well structured, will often restate the thesis. And so I can feel that here with the notion of gift givers and gift receivers being unable to account for the other party's perspective. Okay, so I'm going to take that as my thesis, that gift givers and gift recipients can't really put themselves in the shoes of the other party. And now with that in mind, as my thesis, I'm going to go through paragraph by paragraph and just try and figure out the topics of each paragraph. Again, I'm not going to be reading everything. I'm just going to go through topic sentences. If I still can't understand that first sentence, I will look at the last concluding sentence as well to help me. So, paragraph 1, I'm going to look at the first sentence. Every day, millions of shoppers hit the stores in full force, both online and on foot, searching frantically for the perfect gift. Okay, so I can see from that it's a hook. This is a very classic intro. I'm just going to make a note for myself. That seems to be what it's doing. Now I'm going to look at the second paragraph from line 17. Anthropologists describe gift-giving as a positive social process, serving various political, religious, and psychological functions. Okay, so this is what anthropologists think. But then if I glance at my second sentence, just to make sure I'm like, oh, I'm done. I read my topic sentence. This whole paragraph is about anthropologists. When I look at the first word of that second sentence, I can see instantly it's economists. So it's something else. So I'm going to want to read that sentence to be like, hey, what's going on here? So economists, however, offer less favorable view. So that is actually going to be the topic of this paragraph, is economists saying that we're not as good at gift giving, right? Because of my thesis, I know that our inability to imagine the other person's perspective says that we're not as good at it. And so I have an idea of what these economists are going to say because they are going to ultimately support my thesis. And then I can see, just glancing at the beginning of the next sentence, with the date, it's going to be a study. This is evidence. This is less important to read right now. All I need to know is that economists say we're really bad at gift giving. So I'm going to skip to my next paragraph, 35. What is surprising is that gift givers have considerable experience acting as both gift givers and gift recipients, but nevertheless tend to overspend each time they set out to purchase a meaningful gift. Okay, so the new part of this topic sentence is that we tend to overspend. Pretty simple. Seems pretty on topic. If I want to check in, I can read from the last sentence from 47. Indeed, we propose that gift recipients will be less inclined to base their feelings of appreciation on the magnitude of the gift than givers assume. Okay? So we overspend, and gift recipients don't base their feelings of appreciation on the magnitude of that. So that is helpful. orients the whole paragraph, but it would be enough just with that topic sentence, either way. And then from 51, why do gift givers assume that gift price is closely linked to gift recipients' feelings of appreciation? So that is technically my topic sentence, right? But it's a question, so it's not fully a topic sentence. And it sounds like they're about to answer that question. So the natural thing I'm going to do, instead of skipping to the conclusion, I'm just going to read the next sentence. Perhaps givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. Okay, so this is a suggestion for why we overspend, right? And so I'm going to make a note for myself of why. And then you can hear, actually, if you're paying close attention, that I skipped the parentheses. So you can do that with parentheses, stuff between commas, stuff between dashes. Even on the first read, just keep going without it. That'll help you read faster. Also stay more focused on the main idea of each sentence. Okay, so then I get back to my final paragraph. The notion of gift givers and gift recipients being unable to account for the other party's perspective seems puzzling because people slip in and out of these roles every day. Pretty clear. Again, I kind of highlighted that as a possible thesis. And now I'm going to jump in just the last sentence to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Sometimes the conclusion is a new idea. So from 78, in practical terms, people spend hundreds of dollars each year on gifts, but somehow never learn to calibrate their gift expenditures according to personal insight. This is a classic conclusion. It's like the consequence of their thesis. Okay, so I've gone through the whole essay. I have read very, very, very little of this essay, but I'm fully aware of what is in each paragraph. So I'm going to go back through that for myself before I even look at the questions. This process is super, super fast. Very, very, very helpful for two reasons. One is to clarify the argument and how they're supporting that argument. And the second is to know where everything is. Because for those detailed questions, if I have in my head, oh, this paragraph on the left column is about the economists, then I know exactly the moment I have that question about the economists, which paragraph to look in. It goes way faster. Even the evidence questions, I can have a really educated guess about what would be a reasonable answer. So I'm just going to go through quickly, paragraph by paragraph, what each one is doing, starting with the thesis, and that is that gift givers and gift receivers have different views of this process. We're really bad at imagining the other person. The intro is just like a classic intro with background information examples. The first paragraph is economists saying that we're not very good at it. The third paragraph, it's the first body paragraph, so this would be the second body paragraph or the third full paragraph. From 35 is about overspending. The paragraph from 51 is about why we tend to overspend as gift givers. And the final paragraph is restating our thesis and saying the consequences of this for us every day. Okay, so I have that very clearly in my mind, what the argument is. Doing that together goes more slowly than doing it alone. It is 100% worth the time. Do that every time. Okay, so now I'm ready to look at my questions. Question 11, the authors most likely use the examples in line 1 to 9 of the passage to highlight the blah, 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 blah. I didn't really read all of 1 to 9. I'm going to take a moment to read that to make sure I know what they're talking about. So, from line 1, every day millions of shoppers hit the stores in full force, both online and on foot, searching frantically for the perfect gift. Last year, Americans spent over $30 billion at retail stores in the month of December alone. Aside from purchasing holiday gifts, most people regularly buy presents for the other occasions throughout the year, including weddings, birthday, anniversary, graduations, and baby showers. Okay, so I'm going to say first, I'm going to make my own answer before even looking at the answers for 11, and it's to show the importance of this argument or this finding for the rest of the essay, for us in our life, but then also to set up the rest of the essay. So now I'm going to look at my answers A through D. A, regularity with which people shop for gifts. B, recent increase in the amount of money spent on gifts. So I'm going to mark, if I see something that's instantly wrong, I'm going to mark it. I'm going to cross out that answer as soon as I can. And in this case for B, it's not an increase, so I'm going to eliminate B. C, anxiety gift shopping causes for consumers. D, number of special occasions involving gift giving. It's not only the special occasion, so that's not going to work. It can't be D. And then it's between A and C. And it makes more sense to say the regularity with which people shop for gifts than the anxiety gift shopping causes for consumers. Not all of those examples are about anxiety. that's also a little bit more intense, a little more extreme, I'm going to go for the more natural answer, which will be A for number 11. So moving on, 12 is a vocab question. I'm going to go to line 10 and look for the word ambivalent. And then I'm going to read the sentence and make my own word before even looking at the answers. This frequent experience of gift giving can engender ambivalent feelings in gift givers. Okay, so it's something about feelings, some kind of feelings. I don't know exactly what engender means, but this frequent experience of gift giving can something... and then I'm like, it's hard without knowing that verb. So I'm actually going to keep reading, try and figure out what ambivalent means and define it for myself. So sometimes it's helpful to read the sentences around that sentence to really get a good idea of what that word is saying. So the next sentence, line 10, many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. At the same time, many dread the thought of buying gifts. Okay, so some people like it, some people don't like it, maybe mixed feelings. Then I'm going to go back to my options for 12. Unrealistic, that doesn't really make sense. Apprehensive is just about anxiety, that doesn't really make sense. Supportive, it's not all supportive, so that doesn't make sense either. Conflicted matches the mixed that I made for myself. I'm going to go with B, conflicted, for number 12. Okay. So if we look at 13, we can instantly see there's a key thing. 14 is the evidence question for this. Look out for these. Use them to help you. The evidence will answer this question. If you can find the piece of evidence and do them at the same time, you've really combined two questions into one. It'll go way faster. So let's look at what 13 is asking and then check our evidence in number 14. 13, the authors indicate that people value gift giving because they feel it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it's about people valuing gift giving. If I had to guess where that would be, I would say in my why paragraph over here. I'm not totally sure. I don't actually, then I'm like, okay, and then I check my evidence. I don't actually have an evidence from that paragraph. So the second guess I would make is actually in the intro. So let's start there. A, 10 to 13. Many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. Okay, so that seems to be a piece of evidence that exactly explains why people would value gift giving. I can't check my other pieces of evidence. It's so perfectly answering the question. I'm actually just going to choose A. And then I'm going to use that to answer 13. The authors indicate that people value gift giving because they feel it functions as a form of self-expression. Okay. It's not really what they're talking about. They're talking about building relationships. Is an inexpensive way to show appreciation. Maybe, I mean, appreciation's related to relationships. C, requires the gift recipient to reciprocate. No, definitely not that. That's the opposite. They're saying people have to give back gifts. And it's like, no, people actually like the generosity. Can serve to strengthen a relationship. Okay, so that's exactly what I was looking for. I'm going to choose D for 13, matched with the evidence of A for 14. I'm ready to move onwards. The social psychologist mentioned in paragraph 2, lines 17 to 34, would likely describe the dead weight loss phenomenon as... Okay, so I didn't read this. But they tell me exactly where it is, and it's easy to find, right? So social psychologist, now I'm going to go and I'm looking, and this is not actually skimming, this is called scanning, where I'm looking for specific words. So I'm going to be looking first for the social psychologists in paragraph 2. We start with anthropologists, you got economists, and I'm looking for social psychologists. That in itself is not surprising to social psychologists. Okay, so they're my social psychologists, and then it explains what they think below that. Research has found that people often struggle to take account of others' perspectives. Their insights are subject to egocentrism, social projection, and multiple attribution errors. Okay, so research has found that we generally are bad at imagining other people's state. So this dead weight loss phenomenon, this is the next thing I'm going to be looking for because the question is asking what they would think of it, suggests that gift givers are not good at predicting what gifts others will appreciate. This is exactly in line with what the findings in social psychology are, and so social psychologists would think that it's expected. So I'm going to make that answer for myself and then look at the answer options for 15. Predictable kind of matches. B, questionable. I don't think that would make sense. Disturbing, definitely not. That's kind of in line with what they've seen in other areas. Unprecedented, again, it doesn't really make sense. Unprecedented technically means it's like the first new exciting thing, nothing like it before, and they're actually saying it's in line with what we normally do. So I'm not going to have D, it's going to end up being A for 15. Okay, so moving onwards, 16, the passage indicates that the assumption made by gift givers in line 41 to 44 may be, if I had to make a guess, I would say wrong because that's a big emphasis. But I'm going to just check 41 to 44. Gift givers equate how much they spend with how much recipients will appreciate the gift. The more expensive the gift, the stronger a gift recipient's feelings of appreciation. Okay, again, this isn't really accurate. And so I'm going to say incorrect, right? Clearly, it's just wrong. Okay, the other options, substantiated, I'm like, I don't know what that means. If you have a word you don't know what it means and you have a word that matches, you can just kind of ignore the one you don't know what it means. If I want to eliminate it, technically I could use roots. It's like substance, but made into a verb, so giving something substance, and it doesn't have substance, right? Unreasonable, that's a little bit closer sounding. Insincere is definitely wrong. It's not like they're lying or pretending. Unreasonable is that it's kind of in line with our reason, right? It just is wrong. So I'm going to say C is better than B. And then actually 17 is evidence for the question for 16. So this is something that happens with evidence questions. The evidence does help you answer the first part of a paired question, but if the first part of a paired question you do on its own, go ahead and do it. It's really whichever way is fastest, whichever way is the most effective. If you don't have an instant answer for the first question within a paired question set, then go ahead and use the evidence to help you. But if you have an instant answer, there's nothing wrong with choosing it. So now I'm going to be looking for evidence as to why gift giver's assumption is incorrect. So I'm going to guess that that's going to be in my paragraph with why. And so the 53 to 55 seems like it's going to be a match, right? But I'm going to check it first. Why do gift givers assume that gift price is closely linked to gift recipients' feelings of appreciation? Perhaps givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. Okay, so that seems like a pretty promising answer, but it starts with a perhaps. So I'm not 100% on it sure yet. I'm going to keep looking, and then I'll see if it matches in the end. B, 55 to 60. According to Commer and others, gift giving represents a symbolic ritual whereby gift givers attempt to signal their positive attitude toward the intended recipient and their willingness to invest resources in a future relationship. Okay, maybe it's kind of a different aspect, and it's not necessarily directly explaining why bigger is better in this case. So I'm going to say B is less likely than A. And now I'm going to look at C, 63, 65. As for gift recipients, they may not construe smaller and larger gifts as representing smaller and larger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. Okay, so this one actually addresses a key aspect of 16 that was not addressed in the last two, and that is that it is incorrect. I'm going to leave C as a strong option. Just check my last one. 75 to 78. In theoretical terms, people fail to utilize information about their own preferences and experiences. So this is really in the conclusion. It's like a final thought. It's not going to be my strongest evidence. If I have exact evidence that is from a study or something else, that is the strongest evidence to use for this kind of question where I'm trying to support a claim. Same as if you're writing an essay for school. If you have particular evidence, use that instead of kind of a vague hypothesis. And so because of that, I'm going to actually eliminate A with the perhaps statement, and also because it doesn't address directly why it's incorrect. And so C is a better piece of evidence for that. It is from a study, and it is also exactly why it's wrong. Gift recipients don't feel the same way. Okay. So now I'm ready to move on. 18 is a vocab question. I'm going to go to line 54 and find the word convey. Perhaps gift givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. I could say send. I could say show. I could say represent, maybe. And so I have those words in my head. First one I have is transport, but it's a different meaning of send that really doesn't match, especially if I have show also in my head. Counteract would not match. Exchange, it's not a two-way thing. Communicate, exactly. So 18 will be D. Okay. 19, the authors refer to work by Kemmerer and others in order to... I'm going to go to that place. This was part of the quotes that I was looking at for evidence for why giver's assumption was incorrect. And it's in the why paragraph here. And the reason that they're referring to this is about explaining why gift givers have that assumption, right? Because it's in my why paragraph, and then also why it's incorrect. So, offer an explanation, introduce an argument, question a motive, or support a conclusion. Okay, so I'm going to just go from the verbs first. Offer, that kind of works. Introduce, it's not really something new. Eliminate B, it's just evidence for something that's already been said. C, question a motive. They're not really questioning anything. They're actually giving an answer to that question. D, support a conclusion. It's not about a conclusion. So for 19, I'm going to end up with A, offer an explanation. Indeed, it is the explanation of why, as we were talking before. 20, the graph following the passage offers evidence that gift givers base their predictions of how much a gift will be appreciated on. Okay, so I'm going to want to look at that graph, make sure I understand it fully. So my graph has more expensive, less expensive, and this is the giver, and the other side is the recipient. Same thing, less money and more money. So as we can see, the recipient actually appreciates less money more, whereas the giver assumes that more money will be more appreciated, where it's measured in mean appreciation, and it's perceived. Okay, and then actual. So having understood what the graph is saying, I can now go back and answer question 20. Gift givers base their predictions of how much a gift will be appreciated on. The givers base it entirely on the monetary value of the gift. They think that more money here is going to be better. So for 20, it's going to be B. And this is a sort of thing with the graphs especially. There's clearly just one right answer. If you know what that right answer is, you can kind of leave the other ones. If it's 100% right, it matches the graph, there can only be one. And so if you have the right one, you can just keep moving. 21, the authors would likely attribute the differences in gift giver and gift recipient mean appreciation as represented in the graph. 2, this is going to go back to the author's thesis, an inability to shift perspective that seems to match perfectly with our inability to change from the giver to the receiver mindset. I'm just going to look at the other ones. An increasingly materialistic culture that is not a claim made by the authors. A growing opposition to gift giving, also not relevant. A misunderstanding of intentions. Maybe, but for 21A, an inability to shift perspective is more explicitly what their thesis is. So I'm going to try and find, anytime I have an answer that's in line with the thesis, that will often be the right answer. It's very, very hard to eliminate those answers unless it's like a counter argument or some specific side argument within an essay. Often the ones that are addressing the thesis will be the right answers. A misunderstanding of intentions is close, but not as good as an ability to shift perspective. So I'm going to choose A for 21, and that means that I am now done with my passage. Okay, so I can keep moving and look at the next reading passage, which will be covered in the next video.